I think it's a few things. I think it's like it is a feeling of permanence, but I also think it's a feeling of community. I think you become more a member of that community whenever you're invested in that community. You want to make sure that your community is thriving and everyone's doing their part to make sure that you live in a home that is your safe space. Like there's nothing but more important than coming home and being in your space and have the free will to do what you want with your space. If you want to paint it red and green, you have every right to paint your home red or green, whatever you want to do with it. It's your space. Whereas if you're renting from someone, that those choices aren't typically yours to make on design and color and comfort, and it's also takes out the unexpected. Like you're never going to go to yourself and say, that's it. I'm not renting to myself anymore, but landlords have come up to long-term tenants and be like, I've decided to sell. And then they're in a very uncomfortable predicament. So yeah, I think that it's interesting to look at it from a totally different way, but I'm starting to experience it now. The independence of living when you have an elderly parent is very, very eye-opening. But there's so many of my friends, our parents are now in their 70s and 80s, and they are coming to the challenge of how my mom and dad do not want to leave their home and the independence of their home. So when they say things come full circle, boy, do they. I mean, you're starting off, you're a child, you don't own a home, but then when you get towards your end of life, if your health does not allow, then your children have to start making these decisions of you put your parents into an assisted living. And we went through this with my aunt, and she fought tooth and nail to not leave her home. That was her space. That was her independence. And she loved her home. And totally understand that. I totally get it. I completely understand. But I think when you're talking about independence, that's when it becomes most noticeable, wasn't when you have to make the decision of, are we going to take that independence away as a family? Or are we going to come to a decision and decide that now is the time that they need a little bit more help than what we can provide on our own? So those are tough questions that every family will have to encounter down the line, most likely. Well, any bank will continue taking payments on a loan. They just want to make sure that their payments are being made. But most people, I would think, would create an estate or a trust stating what their wishes are for the home. But what I've seen is children will continue to pay the taxes and the payments, and then the estate will pay them back when the estate is settled. The children will get the money back if they fronted any costs. Obviously, when you sell, in this example, your parents' house, you have to give the new buyer what's called clean title. So you have to pay that lien off in full at the time of the sale. So another thing that people I see do is they will actually put their child on the deed with them. So if anything were to happen to them, the house, depending on how they hold title, many cases will just go over into ownership of the child's name. So there's a couple ways to approach it. But yeah, as long as someone continues making the payments, your bank, your lender should be pretty understanding of you've just lost someone or you had to make a decision to put somebody in a home. So they should work with you, I would think. It's very interesting to me, the psychology of what you see, but in many relationships, and it's almost 50-50 in hetero relationships, about 50% of households, the wife pays all the bills. And the other 50%, the husband pays all the bills. It's almost right down the middle. So I've had both where whichever spouse paid the bills is no longer here, and the other spouse has no idea what is going on. They have no idea what their bills are. The other spouse has taken out a home equity line. They had no idea that their name was even on it. I don't think you can do that anymore, by the way. We make the spouse acknowledge it at the time of closing now. So I just got a call from an attorney. There's a woman who has a house that's worth $600,000. She owes $250,000. So she's sitting on a ton of equity, but she's maxing out credit cards because she's in her 80s and she can't afford to make the payments because she only has one income stream. I see that a lot. I've seen that like 8, 9, 10 times in the last 12 months where people are sitting on a ton of equity, but they have no way to access it, which takes us back to our previous conversation about, home equity lines. That's why they're so important to get one, to have it exactly for this circumstance. So hopefully I can find a way to help this consumer to stay in her home. As her attorney that called me said, she's a pillar of society in their neighborhood and doesn't, back to the independence, does not want to leave her house. And I get it. I totally get it. And there's no reason, that's not, she wouldn't have to leave her house for health reasons. It's all financial.